Hello, friends, it's Nikki, and welcome back to my messy bookshelf. Today, I thought I would share my thoughts on a book that I recently finished this past week, and that is Pamela by Samuel Richardson. I have had so many strong thoughts about this that I felt it warranted its own video because it has been a week, let me tell you. So, I did this book, or I read this book as a buddy read with my friend Candy from the Great Literary Rabbit Hole. And yeah, I think we both started off the same way. We felt very bad for this protagonist. And slowly I started to have some strong feelings about this book and even the protagonist herself. So if you are unaware, well, if you're watching this, you're probably aware. And there will be some light spoilers, but I don't really consider them spoilers because it really tells you in the blurb what happens at the end, and it's in the title. Not on this one, but in other versions, the book is called Pamela, or Virtue Rewarded. And so, yeah, Pamela's virtue was quote unquote rewarded. And I have some thoughts about that. But this book, like I said, I wanted to read it because I read The Blue Stockings for People April with the group for People April. And Samuel Richardson was featured in that book. And, we're learning about all these different works that different people are creating or writing. I don't know why my words are not coming today. Um, but I was interested. It seemed like it was groundbreaking for its time. And yeah, this book is about a young maid who lives in the house of her mistress, and her mistress passes away. Her son inherits the estate, and he is making unwanted advances towards our Pamela, the maid. And Pamela is very, very resistant to these advances that he's making on her. And, we feel bad for her in the beginning because she's so innocent, she's so naive. I I will say I enjoy an epistolary novel. This book is written all through Pamela's letters and the letters that she received in return. Pamela is writing to her family to let them know all of the things that are happening in her life. And I know myself and Candy were both like, no, why are you doing this? Why are you letting them say that to you? And, we were getting quite riled up, the first quarter of the book. But as the book progressed, I started to really, really have some strong feelings about Pamela herself, too. She is a character that is so beautiful. She is so virtuous. She is so perfect. We get pages upon pages of people just talking about how amazing she is, how perfect she is, how virtuous, how pretty her fingers are. So she must play the was it the spinet or the piano very well because she has such beautiful fingers. She has such a beautiful speaking voice, so she must sing very well. And pages upon pages of people just praising this girl. And she is naive and she is very sweet, which is why I had such a hard time with my feelings because I have very rarely had a more infuriating main character putting themselves, and that sounds horrible, putting themselves into harm's way. There is a predator in the house. There are some evil servants that are helping the master. And I was all for Pamela in the beginning, but she has a chance to go away and she decides, no, these people are not as terrible as they seem. They actually just really love me. And so she goes back to get gaslit some more. So this book is full of gaslighting, it's full of harassment, it's full of more gaslighting, it's full of long, repetitive speeches. very long and repetitive speeches. And the character of Pamela. If you love a character who is constantly fainting every time something shocking happens, this book might be for you. If you enjoy someone who is weeping every other page, whether she's happy, whether she's sad, I understand. And it's very evident that this is the perfect woman as written by an 18th century man. And for me, as a modern woman, it is just beyond infuriating. And I try to take these things with a grain of salt when I am reading something written a long time ago. But my goodness, this book was so melodramatic. And my eyes were rolling into the back of my head. I thought I was not going to have my eyeballs anymore. It was so bad. It was so bad. The amount of melodrama and just cringe in this book. So yes, there were a lot of lengthy speeches. Um, Long-winded, like I said. For characters, when I wrote down in my journal, I wrote down all of the characters are maddening, vile, and infuriating. The plot, I mean, I don't mind a book that doesn't have an exciting plot. One of my favorite books is Cranford, where nothing happens. But this was something else. This was something else. We are following this young girl as she is trying to go home to her parents because this man is trying to make advances on her. She doesn't go. Then she decides she's gonna go. Then she gets detained and sent somewhere else. Then there's this super dramatically terrible woman that is helping the master keep her prisoner, essentially. It was just too much for me. And I'm sorry, my words are not working, and I am having a hard time articulating how I feel about this. But like I said, if you enjoy melodrama like a cheesy 1970s novella or a soap opera, this might be the book for you. If you enjoy lots of gaslighting and abuse, this book might be for you. If you enjoy a villain that turns out to be the love interest, this book might be for you. If you enjoy an overly dramatic woman who faints and cries all the time, whether she's happy or sad, and believes the best of all of the worst people, this book might be for you. I had a very difficult time getting through this book. And towards the end, I started getting a little happier because she did start to show a little bit of spirit. But it was after a bunch of other stuff happened. So, and then we went right back to weeping and fainting and all of that stuff. So, I won't say I had a horrible time with this book, but I will probably never read another Samuel Richardson book ever. I have had Clarissa in the back of my mind for a long time, but I don't know if I can do it. This character, Pamela, the same reasons why I did not really vibe with Fanny Price from Mansfield Park, because she's too perfect and too virtuous, and just all we hear about is how good she is and how wonderful she is. And she made me want to apologize to Fanny Price because that has always been my least favorite Jane Austen novel. And because, you know, the love story is not that. This is not about Mansfield Park, but that book to me has one of the most lackluster love stories of the main Jane Austen novels. And Fanny Price herself, she's just too good and perfect for me. I like a little bit of flaw. I like a little bit of sass sometimes. But this character, she made me want to apologize to Fanny Price because Fanny Price was at least a much stronger character. And yeah, I had a very difficult time getting through this book, like I've said multiple times, and I can't ever imagine myself going through something like this again, because it was an experience. It was an experience. I would like to know from those of you who have read this how you felt about this book, because there were so many times, to the point where my family even noticed, that I was groaning, I was shrieking, I was yelling, like I was losing my temper with this book. And it ended up becoming a hate read for me, because not that I hated it, but I hated so much, and I hated these characters, but I wanted to know what happened, so I was turning pages angrily while I was reading this book, okay? And I wanted to know what happened, so I did finish it. That is why I did not DNF this book. And I got my resolution, and it was as ridiculous as you might imagine. But yeah, I did finish it, and I am glad that I read it. I know this book is important because it is one of the earliest examples of a modern novel. But yeah, I can't stand anyone in it. Nothing much happens. And what does happen is surrounded by constant fainting, weeping, characters behaving badly, and yeah, I can't do that again. I cannot do that again. So yeah, that's how I feel about Pamela. And I thank you if you stuck around for me. I don't normally react this way to books, but yeah, I was pretty angry. I wanted to throw this book across the room, and I remember saying, if this woman faints one more time or weeps, throws herself on, it's not just weeping, throws herself onto her knees one more time to weep at someone's feet, I am going to set this book on fire. I said those words out loud. I would never set a book on fire, but I said those words. And I did make it through, and she did continue to throw herself on people's knees and at people's feet, weeping and fainting. And yeah, it was too much. And now I think I realize why there is a satire called Shamala, and I probably will be reading that, because apparently Shamala, I think it was written by Henry Fielding, could be wrong, was a satire because even back then they thought it was melodramatic and ridiculous, or some people did. Um, so yeah, I will be reading that because I would like some humor and, an alternate story to this one. But those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. And I thank you so much again if you made it to the end of this video. And I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.